Welcome to Jersey's Best Podcast, a weekly deep dive into everything that makes New Jersey spectacular, bizarre, beautiful, sometimes annoying, but always the best. My name is Jeremy Schneider. I'm a food and culture reporter for NJ.com and the Star Ledger, and I'm also your host. As always, you can send episode suggestions, guest ideas, and questions our way at jerseysbestpodcast@gmail.com, and follow us at Jersey's Best Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. If you like Jersey's Best Podcast, you're going to like all the goofy stuff we're posting over there. This week's edition of Jersey's Best Podcast is the first in a series of episodes deep diving on cities and towns around New Jersey, taking a closer look at the culture and history of these beloved places and analyzing why they matter so much to the Garden State. The first city we're breaking down in this series is an iconic shore town with a checkered past, a conflicting present, and an unclear future: Asbury Park. With a beloved boardwalk, some of the state's best bars and restaurants, and arguably the most iconic music venue in the state, Asbury Park has become a cultural and culinary crown of the Jersey Shore. But that has not always been the case. There were long stretches during which Asbury Park was not only not a destination, it was a place many New Jerseyans actively avoided. Riots in 1970 ushered in decades of decline for the city. From the 70s to even the early 2000s, Asbury Park was considered by many to be unsafe. But in the early 2000s, Asbury Park became the epicenter of a cultural revival. The music, arts, and culinary scene thrived, much of it fueled by the LGBTQ+ community. It soon became New Jersey's trendiest shore town, growing and growing. Many would say too much. Gentrification and corporate influences have led to constant construction, an overabundance of high-rise apartments, and absolute chaos on beach days. Yes, Asbury Park was reborn, but is its culinary renaissance over already? Joining me today to break down Asbury Park's complicated history is Phil Fazio, a longtime Asbury Park resident who has also spent 8 years working in the city's dining industry. Phil, welcome to Jersey's Best Podcast.
Jeremy, it's a pleasure. How's it going, man?
It's going very well, man. We are psyched to have you here. Phil, what brought you to Asbury Park, and what has kept you there all this time?
All right, so I guess I've been a resident for 12 years now, and at that time when I moved to Asbury Park, I was newly single, and this great new nightclub / bar place opened up called Porta. So I put two and two together, and I said, well, the next chance I have to go on dates or to meet people out at bars would be to go to this place, Porta, and it'd be nice to live down the street from it. The beach was also a pretty good draw for me as well. So I said, yeah, let's go for it.
Did it work? Did you meet the love of your life at Porta?
I did not, surprisingly. I had many good nights there, though. I am now married very, very happily, by the way.
Good save. Yeah. Good save.
But no, I plenty of good times down there. And, you know, what keeps me there is the draw to the beach and just being able to walk to all these great spots that we have in town. And see, really good music down the street or whatever it may be. There's always something to do, whether it's the summertime or wintertime. Doesn't matter. It's still a good time.
So, I mean, your moving to Asbury was kind of during this. You say the revitalization of Asbury Park got you there.
Yes, for sure.
And it's changed. Would you say it's changed a lot in the time you've been there, right?
Yeah. You can see a lot more taller buildings rather than ocean waves, which is kind of a bummer. There seems to be, new places popping up here and there. It's a good and a bad thing, and there's a give and take to those kinds of things. But it's a hard thing to juggle, especially in the summertime, because, like you've mentioned in the introduction, the beach days can be complete chaos.
Absolute chaos. I had a lovely one yesterday, but it was too hot. But before we talk about current day Asbury Park, we got to break down the history. Just a little crash course. Asbury Park was founded in 1871 as a residential resort by New York brush manufacturer and New Jersey Senator, what a combination, James A. Bradley, the namesake for Bradley Beach. Asbury Park was named for Francis Asbury, the first American bishop of the Methodist Episcopal Church in the United States. And it was originally a dry town. Not anymore. I had a beer there yesterday, and it was lovely. The 1890s saw a boom in tourism. You can still see the Victorian architecture from this time. It's present now. In the 1920s, the Paramount Theater, Convention Hall Complex, Casino Arena, and Carousel House were all built, designed by Beaux Arts architect Warren Whitney of New York. Asbury Park was a major tourist destination from the 1890s through the 1960s, But there was a decline. Part of that was because of the opening of the Garden State Parkway, which meant less people taking the train to Asbury and driving elsewhere. The opening of Monmouth Mall in Eatontown in 1947 made it less of a shopping destination. In 1974, Six Flags Great Adventure opens, cutting into their amusement crowd. And when you talk about the decline of Asbury or the dark days in Asbury, you cannot. You have to mention the race riots of 1970, 7 days of rioting, looting, and destruction that led to more than 180 injuries and more than $5.5 million in damage. The stage was set basically because there was a large black population that was not really being served by the community, but by the government, and the town was being overtaken by weekend vacationers, especially in the summer. This led to a dark period from the 1970s to pretty much the 2000s. Phil, tell me a little bit about Asbury. I mean, the rough stretch for Asbury, when it wasn't a resort like it is now, or a resort like it was in the 60s.
So my first big concert that I ever went to was in high school, and I went to go see a band 311 at Convention Hall, and we went with. There was 25 of us. We were in high school. A bunch of us went. And my dad was like, well, how are you getting there? And I was like, oh, well, we'll probably just take a few rides, whatever. He goes, you know what? Let me drive you. I'll take you. I'll wait there. I'll take you back. So we didn't really put two and two together. But once you got into town, it just kind of looked like it was, not a good place to be.
And what year was this?
This was 1999.
Okay. So kind of right before things really started to pop off and get better there.
And, even when I first moved there would be nights, where you would hear stuff outside that wouldn't necessarily be the things that you want to hear at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And, a lot of that has changed in the 12 years that I've been there. We don't really hear those noises too much, at all anymore, which is great. It's great. But those were moments where you just think to yourself, man, this is not too far removed from how crazy it was, back in those times.
Yeah, a friend of mine who lives in Ocean Grove told me that she'd go on runs on the boardwalk when she was in high school, and her parents always said, and this is, even early 2000s. So it's when you get to Asbury Park on the boardwalk, you keep running, and that's. That's so wild to me as someone who literally every chance I get now in 2025, if I'm near Asbury Park, I'm on the parkway, whatever, I'm pulling over, I'm strolling on the boardwalk because it's so pleasant. Yeah. It's so nice. And I find myself strolling around Cookman, going down Main Street, hitting all these restaurants. And it's wild to me that Asbury Park wasn't always that. And I only started really going to Asbury in 2018. I was always more of a Manasquan kid growing up, but yeah, it's hard to fathom that it wasn't, this lively up and coming place, but I think it's important that we acknowledge it. Right? For sure. There always comes from something else, right? And it's good to remember the past so that mistakes aren't made the same time, in the present. And it's good to acknowledge and recognize the people that were here before us to make us have the things that we have now. And one thing I think that is important to mention, Bruce Springsteen emerges during. It wasn't like Bruce Springsteen started hanging out in Asbury in 2005 or anything. Greetings from Asbury Park was written in I think the early 80s, no, early 70s, early 70s. We're gonna cut that. That came out in the early. No, Bruce Springsteen. Greetings from Asbury Park Greetings from Asbury Park by Bruce Springsteen came out in the early 70s. And that's not long after the race riot. That's not after the beginning of the decline. And I think it's wild and kind of telling that Bruce, the most iconic person, and he's not from Asbury Park, but associated with Asbury Park, had his emergence, was forged in this period.
Yeah, and Danny DeVito.
And Danny, of course.
You can't forget about Danny DeVito as great as he is.
So how did we get here? How did Asbury Park go from a place that people were avoiding to a place that tourists are flocking to once again?
I think it was a combination of lots of things. As you mentioned, the gay community was all about investing and building up an area. There was a lot of artists and music that came through, and then some really great restaurants opened up in the area. And all of a sudden, they were having shows outside at the Stone Pony during the summer stage, and it became this summer destination that year after year just becomes more and more crowded, to the point where, for us, it gets a little frustrating, but in order for us to have the town that we have, we kind of have to have that busy summer. And especially being in the restaurant industry, that in town, our restaurants really live off of these really busy months. So, it's a give and take, like I said, but I think, with all those factors that helped become Asbury to where it is now, I think, was really just a crucial part for the success of the town.
When do you think Asbury Park peaked during this revitalization? Because obviously, Asbury in 2025 is a lot different than Asbury in 2015. Is a lot different than Asbury in 2005. I mean, for you, what was like the high point of this? Because I imagine there's there are some drawbacks that come with Asbury now being such a destination once again.
So I went back and forth on this question, and I kind of wanted to say that it hasn't peaked yet, but to me, I think it's going to be extremely difficult to top Bruce Springsteen headlining See Here Now in front of tens of thousands of people on the beach in Asbury Park at this huge music festival that's brought in, really like Hall of Fame acts for the past few years. You just kind of think about that moment, and you think about everything that's led up to that moment. And I don't know if you can get any better. Maybe if Danny DeVito came out, during See Here Now, it might be a little bit better. But I think that was kind of the point where I was like, man, I don't know how this can be topped.
I was at the first See Here Now, and I was super psyched to get to cover it. I wasn't even that excited about the headliners. It was like Lumineers and DMB. I'm not big fans of them, but we were just so psyched to see how Asbury would handle a massive festival of that level. And I feel like it's been mixed in the past, but the first year was a big hit, and it was like, oh yeah, like it felt like a kind of like a victory lap for Asbury. Yes, we're
here now.
We were here. We can do this. We've revitalized to such a point that we can have a massive festival, and it goes off more or less without a hitch. And there's always going to be issues with festivals because they're just such massive undertakings, and
there were issues, and in recent years, but I feel like last year they cleaned up any issues that they had, and I'm not even like a big Bruce fan, God forbid.
Wow, you're not allowed to say that.
I know, it's a bombshell.
Breaking news.
But I definitely stuck around for his performance, and it was just like it was incredible. No. That morning actually was pretty cool too. I'm not sure if they were just pumping Bruce through the speakers or he was actually having some sort of rehearsal for his show that morning. But you wake up at 9:00 in the morning and Bruce Springsteen is just blasting through the entire town. I could hear it from my house on, where I'm at by the high school, and it was far away from the beach, and everyone was just in the best mood. It was really a pretty incredible experience.
Yeah, when they announced that Bruce was doing See Here Now, I was like, all my friends were like, you're going, right? And I was like, that's going to be such a shit show that I don't even want to be part of it. And then Bobby wrote his review, and I saw all the videos, and I was like, I screwed up. I should have been there. I mean, that looked like the Bruce show of all Bruce show. I mean, and this comes on the heels of Bruce doing, a set list that had gone by Bruce's standards anyway, a little bit repetitive, a little bit stale, and he pulled out the massive, pulling out all the stops, throwback set. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, playing deep cuts, playing for at least 3 hours. I forget how long he played.
It felt like 7 hours.
Yeah. And that I mean, it makes me very happy to hear that. I mean, that we thought, from your perspective, the peak was that recent, because I talked to some people about Asbury Park in 2025, and they're like, oh man, you missed it, what this place was like in the early 2010s, before it had gotten too expensive, before it had gotten too gentrified, before all the high rises and stuff. It feels to me like Asbury. I mean, I don't want to say we're on the downward slope, and you would know better than me as someone who lives there. I only come a lot. I mean, I come as much as I can winter, summer. I mean, the restaurants are great, and it's not. I mean, it's not just a great summer town.
Yeah.
But it definitely has a different feel. It definitely has. I mean, there are restaurants that I really liked when I started. I mean, like R.I.P. the Annex. Like I like. I mean, and I remember when Medusa closed. That was only a couple of years ago, and thankfully it's reopened as Catbird. But no, I mean. Part of me thinks that the gentrification and the development and the corporate of it all has taken something away from the feel of the town.
Yeah, I feel like the artists and the musicians, I feel like that's the first group of people that really, kind of feel the effects of this sort of thing. And like you said, like big conglomerates and corporations start building these huge buildings, and you can't see the ocean from Ocean Avenue, So, like I said, there are some drawbacks for sure. It's a give and take thing, but you also have to remember that these places are supporting the economy and helping the town out. So, it's kind of a toleration thing. How much can you tolerate before you lose your mind over not being able to park in front of the place that you live on a summer Saturday?
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I always talk to, and this comes up every time we talk about the beach, because I'm a Benny. Hi, my name is Jeremy Schneider. I'm a Benny.
Boy.
I am.
Two breaking news today, right? Me not being a big.
Oh, it's a journalism podcast, baby. No, but I mean. Yes, I'm a Benny, but you need Bennies, because look, I make a point to go to Asbury in the winter, because I have friends there. Because the restaurants are that good. But if you don't have those insane crowds on like a July 4th weekend, on a July Saturday, that crazy crowd and that madness and that inability to park is what fuels the doldrums of the winter. It's what fuels the dead periods where most of these restaurants are closing if it's not for the insanity that that comes.
Yeah, I mean, the place where I'm at, we still do pretty well in the wintertime. It's kind of like a place where a lot of the people that live in Monmouth County or Ocean County will come to, which is great, and we're very thankful for that. But summertime, it's just complete madness. So, but like I said, we need those months. A lot of the restaurants and businesses in town need these months as well. People always look forward to the summertime, and they should, because that's like the best part of our year. But you could also come to Asbury in the winter.
You sure can.
It's actually a pretty good time too.
The Asbury Park art scene, the music scene, it's so synonymous with the town, and I can't help but feel like it's changed a lot. I feel like Asbury Lanes is kind of encapsulates it. That it used to be this like really cool, rundown DIY-ish venue, and now it's very nice and like super like
it's too nice.
Yeah. It feels like the mallification of Asbury Park's art, music scene at least. And I've been to some good shows there. I saw Thursday there. I saw Phoebe Bridgers there. I saw my boys Jawdust there. And everyone's like, I'm not going there. I miss the old lanes. I'm not going.
There's definitely a piece of me that was taken when the old lanes closed down. That place was iconic.
What was it like? I've heard stories, but I want to hear yours.
It was just super hot and sweaty, and everyone there, had the same intentions. And those intentions were to just to stand and like go nuts for whoever band was playing. It didn't really matter what band was playing. It was just the fact that you were in that space, and you had a great time. It wasn't necessarily like, bowling balls decorated in the American flag and whatever the hell they're doing in that place. But, there was some sort of like, I don't know, just like magic that you felt and you experienced in that place when you were there for a show. And you left like feeling completely rejuvenated. You could have been sweaty, you could have been like hot or whatever, getting bounced around in some sort of pit. But you left feeling like, man, like this was awesome,
Do you get that feeling when you go there now?
No, not really. I say, that was okay. That was all right. You just always, it's hard not to compare, right? Because it's the same space. It's called the same thing, but it's definitely, not the same.
It feels, I've having never been to the old lanes, I can't compare, but even going to the new ones, and it sounds great. And it's not, it just like, it doesn't have. It feels like almost too clean and too safe,
too proper.
Yeah, too proper. Like, and then you talk about the Saint, which is closed. I never got to the Saint. I really like. as much fun as I have in Asbury in 2025, I do feel like I missed like some really cool stuff that kind of got priced out or phased out just as things have gotten nicer.
Yeah, the Saint was the place where you went to see a band before they became like too big, and if you were lucky enough to get in, because it only holds like 300 people at best, and that was the place to go to.
Still got the Pony. Pony's never closing.
No, I think they're doing a pretty good job.
How do you feel about the outdoor setup is really cool. I mean, obviously you can only, the Pony, I don't know what the cap is, but it's a small room. You can't have Turnstile playing Stone Pony in the summer.
No, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's a fun thing for people to do, even if you're not inside on the summer stage. If you don't have a ticket, you can still hang back and just sit on the boardwalk, or you can go to Watermark up on the roof and check things out from there. But that's still part of the Asbury Park that I feel is unique. Like it's hard to enjoy a beach day, or it's very easy to enjoy a beach day and have this really popular band playing at the same time. I feel like that's pretty unique. You can't really get that anywhere else. And
you work in the restaurant scene. I report on it a ton. It's my job, and anytime something opens in Asbury, it's a big deal because it's earned this reputation as as the best food town down the shore, and I certainly think it's right up there. But I also have seen some great places. I'm curious, how do you another thing that I feel like is symbolic, the Hotel Tides, this LGBTQ plus like iconic space. Becoming the Saint Laurent and Heirloom Kitchen, Heirloom at the Saint Laurent opening, and now Judy and Harry's. And that also feels like kind of like a symbol of like things are changing here.
They're changing of regard. Sure.
Was when that happened, and I know that the new restaurant and the hotel has embraced the LGBT community as much as they can. But when that happened, I remember when I wrote about it, Bobby was like emphasized to me like, this is a big deal. This means a lot to this. Like, what was the reaction when that was happening? Or were people psyched on it? Were people like disappointed?
I think people at first were like, "What do you mean the Tides is closing? Like, why? Like, what's going on?" And like Ewan said, and like Bobby has said as well, they've done a pretty remarkable job of keeping things like honoring the past and making sure that doesn't get lost in translation. It's a fun place to go to, but there's always the people that are going to be harking on the past and thinking about what was and that sort of thing. But as long as the past is respected and as long as things don't stray too far off what the intention was at the beginning, then I'm all for it.
What do you think of Asbury's reputation as a food town? I mean, I value your opinion immensely in this situation. Yeah. I have my opinions. I do think partially the town. I mean, the town has now. It's like this like kind of self-sustaining thing with the food scene, where it's like, it's like it opened at Asbury. It's got to be good.
I don't necessarily think that translates or that holds up. My wife and I, go out to eat pretty often, and I'm not knocking Asbury Park restaurants. I think a lot of them are really, really good. There might be too many Italian restaurants.
That's my big issue with the town.
It's like everyone that opens up, it's just, hey, it's more spaghetti and meatballs. It's more chicken parm, but whatever. We do go outside of Asbury quite often to go out to eat. But we have our staples in town that we like to go to and like to support. And, I think as far as the actual city itself, I think it's, I would maybe say it's like a top 8 as far as in the towns in New Jersey of restaurants and things like that. But I think because of the draw to the beach and the draw of the summer crowd, you get a lot of mediocrity. And as far as these restaurants go, and ones that aren't really going to stand out above ones that are, say, in the middle of a town, far off the coast in Jersey somewhere, like up north or something like that. I think, the closer you are to the beach, the less quality the place becomes. That's just my opinion personally.
No boardwalk eats for my guy over here.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll stick to the Mogo truck, and that's about it.
God, I love Mogo.
Yeah, that place is great. But I just think you get a lot of people that just say oh, it's on the beach. It's a can't miss. Let's put, chicken fingers and fries on the menu and a burger and a fish taco, and we're set, But I think there needs to be a little bit more creativity and definitely some room to improve.
I very often get asked for Rex for Asbury Park, and I find myself kind of saying the same spots over and over again just because, I mean, look, it's a good food town. I don't know if it's a great food town anymore.
I agree.
And I mean, I always say, I mean, you got my favorite stuff is typically more casual. I mean, I love getting brunch at Cardinal. I love getting sandwiches at Speak Eatery. Mogo is fantastic. I really did love Heirloom of the Saint Laurent. I mean, I'm less impressed by Judy and Harry's as I've written, but yeah, I mean, I found myself like recently. A friend of mine was like, I'm going down for my anniversary with my wife. Where should we go? I need like a fancy like a nice dinner, and he's like, not Italian, and I was like. Go to Grand Tavern in Neptune City, I guess. I mean, and I guess like the dirty little secret that isn't that secret if you live there. It's a small town.
Yes.
It feels. I mean, like I mean, in preparation for this podcast, I went to Asbury. It was a really tough assignment. I hated it.
Yeah, it was rough, huh?
Hanging out, taking a nice stroll on the boardwalk. Walking around Cookman. I spent more time on Main Street than I have before because it's a part of town I don't spend enough time in. But I mean, as I was just like. After by 3 o'clock, I was like, "Yeah, I've seen the town."
That's it.
And I mean,
get the hell out of here. Time to go.
That's what they told me at Bond Street. They were like, "Yeah, you finished your high life. Get out."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love going to Asbury, but I don't. It's a good food town. I just don't. I mean, I've not been super impressed with anything that has opened. I mean. I really liked Catbird when and that was kind of like a success story, I think.
Yeah.
Because Medusa
kind of
had
rose
closed.
up from the dead.
Yeah, and it was in a beautiful space. Very good pizza. Asbury, and obviously, but then when we talk about the spots, everyone recommends Tallulah's. Tallulah's is very good.
Tallulah's is great.
Everyone says go to Bond Street. I love Bond Street, but yeah, I find myself a little bored sometimes. I mean, I'm curious. Was there a period where the restaurant scene was better, did I miss the wave on this?
No. I think it has improved, but I don't think it's improved, too much. At the place where I work, we get a lot of people that come in for vacation or they're just in Asbury for a day or a weekend, and there's like, they always ask me for recommendations. So. I'll say you should try Frank's if you like pork roll, egg, and cheese.
Love Frank's.
I think that's a good spot. Cardinal is amazing.
Really agreed.
Pascal and Sabine is wonderful. I think it's a really great date spot. Great ambiance. Brando's for your classic red sauce Italian.
I have not been there. That's been on the list for a long time.
You should check it out.
Make that happen.
That's very good. It's very good there. But yeah, I kind of tend to say the same, recommendations over and over again, and I'm okay with that. I think for a small town, if you have 5 or 6 really good spots, you're doing okay. You're doing pretty good. And there's a lot of like the pizza at the Galley is ridiculously good.
I'm a big fan of the Galley. They have a really good burger at the Galley.
Yeah, they got good everything there. That's like after a long night out and you just want something greasy and. To aid with your stomach, you just go and get something very, very good from there.
But one thing that every time I go to Asbury is in mind for me. The tensions that were there in the 70s that led to the unrest, and then kind of ushered in this dark period. This the time when people were not coming to Asbury for fun, for vacationing. As this gentrification, as this development has happened, as this gentrification has happened, are we kind of setting the stage for, another situation where a lot of the population is not being served? I feel like it's, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but people tell me it literally is a wrong side of the tracks thing. You get a complete different vibe in Asbury when you cross those tracks.
Yeah, it definitely has an area or 2 or even 3 where, you make a wrong turn somewhere and, you could be in a pretty unforgiving, situation. But, you can only hope that the people who run the town are, still welcome to the idea of keeping it inclusive, not just for a certain, person, for everybody. And I feel like that they've done some rent controlled places like apartments and stuff in certain pockets of town. So they do what they can. That's a tough question for me to answer because I'm not really too hip on that, and I don't want to say anything that's going to piss anybody off. But we definitely hope that there's no other issues that stem from something like this happening, especially going back in time. Like we learn about this stuff so we don't make those same mistakes twice.
What was I think my biggest takeaway from my little Asbury tour yesterday for this pod, it kind of feels like there's like a downtown bubble. Like, I mean, everything from the boardwalk to like Main Street is like, I mean, like very like maintained and lots of businesses coming in, and then as soon as you
lots of construction too.
So much construction. I had to, the number of times I had to take detours yesterday just because of all the construction was insane, road construction and otherwise. But you hit Main Street and it I was talking to my friend that I was walking. I was like, was this what like old Asbury felt like? Not as fancy, not as polished. I mean, some really cool spots. The Mexican grocery has awesome tacos, and I mean, like TJ's is a good pizza spot. And I mean, our bar's on Main Street, which I'm a huge fan of. Our bar. I mean, that that bourbon cheerwine slushy. I dream about it all the time. Didn't get one yesterday. They weren't open yet. It was a bummer. But I mean, I'm like, do you notice like kind of like a bubble here where it's like, oh, like this is where the development has gotten to and this is where it hasn't reached yet?
Yeah. And I think not to bring another shore town into this conversation, but I drive into Long Branch every now and again, and it feels like that there more than it feels like in Asbury. The construction and the buildings and everything that's going on between the boardwalk and Cookman, you definitely see it, and it's definitely happening very often, and it does seem like Main Street kind of gets no love from that area, but you go into Long Branch and it just they've put everything into that one spot in Pier Village, and you go 1 block behind it and it looks like the same way it did 30 years ago. So I think Asbury hopefully is learning from Long Branch and knowing to keep everyone involved and keep everybody happy. But it's like I said, it's a tough juggle balance, and hopefully these things lead to more good things for Asbury Park.
Yeah, you got to be super aware of this stuff and vigilant. I living in Jersey City, and I'm sure we'll do there will be a Jersey City podcast episode. But I fear when things get better and you bring in these businesses and you bring in these developers, you make things you make a lot of things better, but you also lose some of the charm. You lose some of the
character.
And I'm super curious. And Jersey City is one of the most diverse cities in America, and it's you with the gentrification coming. I mean, hello, I'm a gentrifier. I got to check that. You notice changes, and I mean, I guess the overlying question for this episode, for this conversation, and I think I know your answer based on what you've said so far. But is Asbury Park over in 2025? I mean, is it? You have these. I mean, all the development, all these crazy, these crazy beach days, a kind of a sterilized feeling that's coming. I mean, parts of the boardwalk, parts of town. I mean, music venues that were, beloved and DIY and really like real, starting to feel kind of saturn and fake. Is Asbury Park over in 2025, or I mean, is the best yet to come?
I still am an optimistic person when it comes to stuff like this, and I hope there's enough people that have this ability to keep things like Asbury Park should be kept in charge and in place to make sure that we don't lose things that we've had that kept us, successful in years past. And also for the people that are, coming to Asbury Park as new residents or just for, vacationers and whatever, it's always good to, tread somewhat lightly in the beginning and, understand what your place is when you first get there. It's kind of like walking into somebody's house for dinner. You're not going to drag your shoes on the floor and start ordering people to make you food or whatever. You're going to, go in there with respect. So, for any, that was my first thing when I first moved there was to, hey, like, let's get a pulse of what this town is like, and let's try to make it better. Let's try to improve it. Let's try to keep the things that make it fun and make people want to come here the same. You know, so I still think there's enough people in place in town to keep things going the way it is. But, you know, I would say the peak has already happened. So hopefully we can keep this train running for a little bit longer until my wife and I move out.
And if we need another peak, we'll just get Bruce on the beach playing another crazy
Yeah,
show.
yeah, that's a quick Band-Aid fixed, right?
Bruce Springsteen, come on the podcast. Got to say it once an episode. Phil, this was awesome. Before we let you go, we have to run you through the Garden State Gauntlet, a series of rapid-fire questions that today will be all about Asbury Park, understandably. Are you ready?
I hope so.
Favorite Asbury Park restaurant?
Pascal and Sabine, easy.
Favorite Asbury Park bar?
I have to ask you this question. Mm-hmm. Is this one singular bar that I have to choose out of all the bars, or is this based on situational circumstances?
You know what? We're going to let you cook. Do whatever. You give us the situations.
Oh, boy. All right. So I think a good place to start would be to start either at Barrio for a nice margarita made by Jamie Dodge. Shout out to Jamie. And I think after that, you go to Lola's for a nice espresso martini. And from there, if you want to continue the night and you want to keep going, you could make two choices. You can either head to the boardwalk and go to Watermark and Porta, or you can go back onto Bond Street and go down to the basement, and then end the night at Johnny Mac's. So it depends on what kind of night you want to have. It's I'm not advocating for binge drinking.
I am. Just kidding. Don't do that. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
But, there's so many good bars and a lot of really good cocktails to be had. So it really depends on what kind of night you want.
Phil Fazio, we're just giving you the Asbury Park nightlife guide right here.
Yep. Here it is.
What business that is closed in Asbury Park do you miss the most?
I have to say Little Buddies.
What was Little Buddies?
Do you know? Have you heard of them?
No.
Oh, man. So on Cookman, this was before Lovesick and Homesick were a thing. It was Brick Wall and Annex.
Yeah, love the Annex.
And those were beloved places by the community. And they also, before the pandemic, they had a little secret doorway at the end of the Annex that led you to a place called Little Buddy's Tiki Hideaway or something like that. And the place was completely decorated in tiki. The drinks were like so sugary and sweet and maybe not even that great. But they always had a really good DJ in there, and the vibe in there was always a good time. That is a spot where I have fond memories from, and I would say that that's probably my top spot that I miss the most for sure.
When did that close?
It was a part of the COVID thing, so they closed during the pandemic. It was a bummer, really big bummer. So honorable mention though to the Trinity and the Pope.
What's that?
So that's on Madison, and it's in the spot where formerly, what was it called? What is it? Killer Pies was, yeah.
Let's not talk about Killer Pies.
I know, that's a sore subject. Anyway, Trinity and the Pope was a really cool, like, New Orleans Cajun-themed restaurant, and they had an upstairs balcony where they had live shows. So it was a really good use of the space, too, because the space inside of that building is beautiful. And they would have some really good bands there, a lot of good memories at that place, too. So I would say that goes back, though. I can't even remember when they closed. It was probably sometime in, like, 2014 or 15, something like that. But it was awesome.
What is the most underrated thing to do in Asbury Park?
Oh, man. Underrated. I mean, I love the Pinball Museum. Is that weird?
Silver Ball.
So
I
good.
love Silver Ball.
It's so much more than a pinball museum, though. They have really good arcade games. Bobby and I once ran the table on NBA Jam.
He's on fire.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, it was great. That's really good for like a rainy day or even like a day in the wintertime to come down and have a good time. I think that's pretty underrated.
I love Silver Ball. What is an absolute tourist trap in Asbury Park that people go crazy for and you roll your eyes at?
This might be weird, but the beach.
I think this is the second episode in a row we've had someone call the beach overrated. Let me hear you out.
So I need to divulge further into that. The beach itself is beautiful, and I go there all the time. Big beach person. But when you factor in, like say last Saturday, it was nice out. The weather was perfect. It was the first real beach day we've had in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Wawa to get a sandwich before I went to the beach on the one in Neptune. It took me 35 minutes
Jeez.
to get one sandwich.
And Wawa's whole thing is fast. So
Right.
that's a
And I
bummer.
put the order in the computer like so quick.
You're ready.
And then I got my ticket. It was like 500 something. And the guy called out like 272. And I just wanted to like, then, forget about trying to find parking. So I walked from my house down to the beach, which is normally what we do anyway. But when you have a lot of things to carry, it can be a little taxing. So wound up walking and, there was barely any spots to be had. And I think it just, the beach itself creates so much chaos, like you mentioned earlier, with parking and, finding a good spot, that ultimately on those really, really nice days on the weekends or holiday weekends in the summertime, it's just like, Jesus Christ, can we just go somewhere else?
Yeah, I was there on a Monday, and I think it was like the first Monday of like school being out, but it was like parking was impossible, and we found a spot, but it took a while. No, I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
Honorable mention to the ghost tours.
I didn't even know about this.
I don't even want to get too much into it, but I did look on TripAdvisor, and there's a Bruce Springsteen walking tour, which what are you going to go? You're going to go to the psychic on the boardwalk and the Stone Pony? Like, I don't understand. You can't do that on your own?
I would rather go to Philly and see the Chicken Man's house blown up.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time. Let me know when you go.
I'll take you. What is your favorite 311 song?
This is an easy one. Stealing Happy Hours off the Transistor album. Quick note about that album. It was supposed to be a double album because they wrote so many songs for it, but they had to trim it down to make it a single. But that song is my favorite, hands down.
Side note: you ever watch the Eric Andre show?
Yes.
Have you seen the 311 bit?
Yeah, where they waterboard Nick.
Investigate 311. Oh my god,
pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good.
Well
deserved too.
Oh my god, I love it. What shore town is the next Asbury Park?
Oh man, I don't think you have to go too far for this. I'm either gonna go northern Monmouth County, like the Atlantic Highlands or the Highlands, or just 2 towns down from us at Bradley Beach. Because Bradley Beach, I feel like, has a really good restaurant scene and Main Street area already. They got to beef up their bar game a little bit, unless you're going to Darcy's. But there's some potential there, and I feel like Atlantic Highlands is kind of in the same boat where they have some cool little spots, and they're starting to revitalize their town a little bit as well. So I think within Monmouth County, I would take those 2. Otherwise, I'm not really too hip on the shore scene, like as we go further down.
No, but those are the 2 places that came to mind for me. I'm curious.
All right, let's lock it up there. Nicely done.
I don't think Highlands. Highlands is so small, and I love Highlands, but it's so small that I don't know if it how it would sustain it. And Bradley Beach, I feel like, is already on the way there. Yeah. But I agree with you on the bar scene. But that's a wrap on this episode of Jersey's Best Podcast.
So fast.
Usually,
what else you want to talk about?
How was your day? How was your day, Phil?
My day's good. I'm actually heading on my honeymoon in like 5 hours.
Oh, were you? Oh, yeah, that's right. Bobby told me this.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
We're going to Italy, Spain, and Portugal. We're going to be gone
terrible.
For a pretty long time.
You're gonna have a blast, dude.
Yeah, it should be all right.
You got to go to the gelato spot where they worked in Jersey Shore. I'm sure that's very high on your list.
Yeah, we're gonna take pictures and selfies and send it to you guys.
I will be baking on the beach, wishing I was there. Thank you so much to Phil Fazio for joining us. Phil, are you on social media, or do you have anything to plug? Or
no, my wife does all my social media these days. So I don't really have anything to plug.
That's very refreshing. Thank you to our audio producer, James Shapiro, our video producer, Dwayne Uzaro, and our executive producer, Bobby Olivier. Thank you to Schmutzadells for our theme song. If you have questions, episode ideas, guest suggestions, anything in that vein, please email us at jerseysbestpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave us a review whenever you get a chance, wherever you get your podcasts. Really important for new podcasts. And please consider subscribing to NJ.com. There's a link in your episode notes. New Jersey needs high-quality journalism, and our journalists need you. Tune in again next week for the latest episode of Jersey's Best Podcast. And remember, Jersey forever.